So I almost broke tradition, something that I've never done before, and published a Midas Interactive game instead of a Phoenix game during an episode with a 3 in the number. Through my own negligence, I almost torpedoed my integrity. But yeah, it's been a while since I reviewed one of those Dingo Pictures Phoenix Games reviews, so I thought I'd do another one, as I was actually enjoying doing these ones. I was recommended this one by my friend Laz, who told me that this was the worst one he'd seen. That's a glowing recommendation right there. So I present to you Camelot, or The Sword of Camelot, or Dashwort von Camelot. I don't know, these things always have like 1 million fucking titles each, so delete where appropriate. This movie was a knockoff of Sword in the Stone, as one would guess, which is an odd strategy given that this movie is ripping off to cash in on something that's 35 years older than it. My guess is that this is actually a rip-off of the Warner Brothers movie Quest for Camelot that came out the same year and haunted every VHS tape I had as a kid. In fact, if you look at some cover art of it, it actually has a very reminiscent art style of the characters from that movie. Admittedly, there is little by way of similarities in the plot and the characters, minus the comedic relief, marketable cute dragon character. This is seemingly a basic bitch retelling of the King Arthur story. Although this movie doesn't really follow it exactly, they do change a lot of plot points and move them around for reasons that escape me. I wasn't able to find out too much about this one, as information on this Dingo legend is surprisingly light. I'm assuming that it was quite a standard affair. So we start off with Daniel Romanos? No, this is just Armin Drogat, the voice of Wabu, cosplaying as Merlin the Wizard in real life. There are several Dingo Pictures films that had this setup, like the Brementown Musicians film, where this guy is in get-up that makes him look like a German folk singer, and he narrates the story of the Brementown Musicians very enthusiastically. Despite the fact that they had these guys around and they all dubbed themselves in English, French, Italian, Finnish, etc., for some reason they didn't record these live action segments in different languages and instead just did it in German and dubbed over it in whichever language they were dubbing in, which makes it look extra shitty. Not as bad as the East-West dub where Zanak's dad just bumbles over it. The actor is clearly putting in way more of a performance than the dub actor, so it clashes horribly.
Look, a real donkey, people said. They had a camera and a video camera with them. The donkey had to stand right in front of the mill. And then people took his picture and taped it. At first the donkey was very good, but after a while it became too much for him.
Here they at least try to put in a performance, even if they don't understand what they're saying. Still, given how little he's on screen for, I don't know why they couldn't have done the other language versions organically instead of just post-dubbing. It honestly would have made it look a lot more legitimate, but obviously that's not their number one priority. Armin Drogat does put in the effort to sound as enthusiastic as he looks in the video, but his English is somehow worse than mine is.
Do you know who I am?
I dunno, Dumblesnape. Do you know who you are?
No. Never heard of me.
I dunno, are you Morrigan's creepy uncle that Flemeth banished from the swamp?
In former times, everyone knew me.
I don't know, were you the best Ozzy Osbourne tribute act in Europe?
Merlin, the greatest magician of the Middle Ages.
Oh, it's that jackass. Well, given that I'd never seen a depiction of Merlin that looks like this, it's kind of on you that I didn't pick that up right away. Kinda reminds me of that Zombieland Amazon series where the show acts like you're stupid for not getting that this guy is Woody Harrelson's character from that movie. I mean, if you look really hard for a resemblance, squint, roll your head to the side, You still won't find it.
And they all came to me. Peasants, knights, kings, they all wanted me to help them.
I used to ride a horse once.
What? What's that got to do with it?
I had a sword. I was respected. Better than that, I was feared. Peasants had their backs flayed for looking at me funny.
You all right, Hal?
It was brutal, but it worked. We had order, we had respect. And now we have this.
And I had a shield. A red one.
And they all came to me. Peasants, knights, kings, they all wanted me to help them.
You seem awfully happy about that. Like you enjoyed playing Godfather or something.
And usually I did. Unless I was planning some other great thing.
So you were helpful unless it benefited you to not be helpful. Okay.
And the greater matter was certainly King Arthur.
One thing about these live action segments is that they keep zooming in on Merlin's pendant, and at first I thought it might be of some significance to the plot, but I think the only reason they do this is to show how well they copied it on the actual model in the cartoon. Like, I can't think of another reason why they would. Sorry, I stupid.
It happened in England more than 1,000 years ago. The empire needed a new ruler because the old king had just deceased.
I'm deceased.
And because in my dreams the future is prophesied.
So, to sum that up for you, the empire needs a new ruler because the old king had just deceased. Because in Merlin's dream, the future is prophesied. I stand by my original assessment. That is my favourite line of dialogue in movie history. It's Dingoism overload.
I knew when young Arthur would become king. Also, the Holy Grail would be found again.
It feels a bit like this guy is making this shit up as he goes along. Oh yes, King Arthur will be king and the Holy Grail will be found. And the Pulp Fiction briefcase will be uncovered. Yes. By the way, whilst reviewing this footage for this thing, I took screenshots of Merlin here and shared them around Discord, telling people that it was a leaked picture of Gandalf from that Rings of Power series. A lot of people were quick to believe that, given how awful the other characters look.
You will get to know later what the Holy Grail is.
It's that thing from Indiana Jones that fixes Sean Connery up. We know.
I am sure that Arthur became King of England and showed the castle of Camelot as the king's seat. Most of the dukes and knights agreed that Arthur should be the new king, because they knew he was under my personal protection.
Oh, so it wasn't so much choice or confidence, but coercion. Arthur should be the new king because you said so. That's a great way to pick a future ruler of your country. Good job.
And they had a great respect for me.
Oh, fuck, it's that prick Merlin. Just nod along with whatever he says so he goes away. They have so much respect for me. For you.
But there was only one man who did not agree with it. His name was Mordred, the Black Knight.
for his transgression of disagreeing with me, Merlin, he must die.
Come on, Merlin.
So we begin the craply animated part of our crap animation and transition from live action Merlin to cartoon Merlin, where we see that he hasn't had a change of clothes in fucking centuries. Well respected man here. What a fucking tramp.
Come on, Merlin.
Oh, we're doing the Atlantis thing and having the woman voice the clearly male characters. Okay, sure, why not?
Arthur, you know, I think that you want to fight against one of the best and strongest knights of England.
What gave you that idea? Is it that he turned up to a duel in the woods in full armour? Wow, nothing gets by Merlin. You'll notice that we have a stupid tiny dragon that follows Merlin around as the pointless cute bit of comic relief. You know, like Dingo always does in their films. It's never actually addressed at any point in the movie though, which I find kind of funny. Nobody says, what the hell is that thing and why is it always laughing at me? And even Merlin himself doesn't even address it in the slightest. It's a tame Dragonsaurus that waddles around behind a powerful wizard and people just seem to overlook it or just immediately accept it to the point that bringing it up seems pointless.
Well, I've decided to fight against him, and what a king decides upon, he shall keep.
I hope to God that mantra doesn't extend to people, because otherwise this shit's gonna get awful uncomfortable awful fast.
And most of all, he has to hold himself back when things become dangerous. Well, what do you have to do? You will see very soon whether this is good for you or not.
Gotta love how that dragon sword doesn't even look like it's actually sitting on that horse and just looks like a picture that's been put over the top of it. Jesus fucking Christ.
We are entering the territory of the Black Knight.
So he just owns that area of the woods, does he? Like a bear? Did he piss on it to claim it? Is that how knights worked back then?
Aren't you afraid of him?
But it would be unlike a king if he forgot his royal duties out of fear. It is my duty now to defeat Mordred.
Right, I have warned you.
I feel like some parts of this conversation were overlooked and didn't make it into the main script. It's like 3 dialogue pieces out of 10 were selected and put into the actual movie. Also, you haven't so much warned Arthur as you've just whined at him.
Aren't you afraid of him?
Would anyone be afraid of that thing?
Ah, look, Arthur personally. King by Merlin's mercy.
It's kind of funny because he makes a good point here that Arthur is only king because Merlin more or less acts as his game genie. Without Merlin, he wouldn't stand a chance.
Stop offending me. Draw your sword, or are you a coward?
Christ, Arthur is like Twitter 1,000 years before its time.
Coward? Do you believe that I have not enough courage to fight against such a little upstart? Perhaps you give me your sword immediately, then we can save a lot of time and I won't injure you, yeah.
Perhaps I'll speak so quickly that it'll stun you into confusion so I can kill you instantly, yes.
Big mouth.
Well then, we'll do it as you like.
I love that. The only thing that it takes to make this guy go from cocky to surly is just the insult of big mouth. It really is like Twitter. So the two of them have an epic joust, which is actually a shot-for-shot recreation of Knight's Tale's final scene.
And so it went on for half a day.
So these pricks were so fucking stupid that they couldn't hit each other for over half a day. Jesus fucking Christ.
Through and through, back and forth, to and fro.
You see, Merlin, if you weren't so deep into the bottle of sauce, you'd know that you just said the same thing twice, repeating the same thing twice.
At a certain point, it seemed that Mordred was the stronger one. Then Arthur seemed to win. By and by, the attack backs became weaker and weaker. Their arms were much damaged, and they injured each other more and more, but neither of the two wanted to give up.
I mean, you've kind of described every sword fight in history there. Ever. But okay.
Then the moment came when Arthur had to learn that also a king can be in trouble, yeah.
What, you mean like Prince Andrew? Wait, didn't this start off as a joust? How the fuck did this happen? Why do they have swords now? What happened to the horses?
Stop, Mordred.
Oh, here comes Mummy, here to ruin everyone's fun.
Merlin, that's what I thought before. Without you, Arthur can't do anything.
What's kind of funny is that the bad guy in this movie is always right. Arthur is not only incompetent and stupid in this film, but Merlin literally exists to give him an unfair advantage over everyone and everything else. This is true in a fair few adaptations, but in most adaptations Arthur has a good heart compared to the other options for king, so the advantage is at least sort of warranted. Whereas in this one, he's a massive douche and a half-wit. He also accomplishes nothing, not without Merlin doing it for him.
Merlin, keep out of this. It's only something between Mordred and me.
Merlin, stop putting in when I'm being murdered. It's incredibly rude. Oh, I don't even fucking care anymore. Just kill him so you can be my new playing piece. So the Black Knight was about to finish Arthur off, as was his right. However, Merlin decides to use magic to paralyze him so he can't, and saves Arthur's life instead. I get that some adaptations make Merlin into a sort of trickster, and I believe that this is what they were going for in this adaptation, sort of morally greying him. However, in this one he just comes across as a power player, who just wants to have control over everyone and everything. He's an outright villain. He treats an entire kingdom as his personal chessboard, and everyone has to do what he says all of the time.
Merlin, what have you done?
Yeah, Malin, what have you done?
If anybody hears that it was not me who defeated the Black Knight, that you killed him with your magic, everybody will laugh at me.
I think they do more than laugh at you, given that it would be stolen valor. They'd probably lynch you for being a lying piece of shit, and rightly so.
My dear Arthur, first of all, Mordred is not dead but only unconscious, and secondly, if a certain Merlin did not exist, then nobody could laugh at you because you would be stone dead.
I mean, you can still laugh at dead people. It's shitty, but you can do it. I mean, have you even heard of the internet, Merlin? The internet? Shit.
And England would be without a king again.
It's okay, they'll just pick the lowest common denominator as the next king, as we have done for the past 10 years or so now.
If Arthur hadn't been so injured, he might have even fought against me because he was so insulted.
Wow, what a little psychopath. Excellent king material here. I mean, if you were going for King Joffrey, I think you've nailed it.
But when he stood up, he fell down again because of his pain.
The spell that I cast on him to make his legs no longer work also helped. But I didn't tell him about that part.
So I packed him on his horse and took him to a hermit who had experience in treating wounded knights.
That's a very specific line of expertise.
And there he lay for days between life and death.
I may have copped a feel or two.
At last the herbs of the old man had their effect, and slowly Arthur became healthy again. One day he saw a young lady walking along with her retinue.
Oh, he just got over the crippling injuries and got a boner for some chick passing by. Got it. Now, Guinevere in this game isn't as much of a person and just sort of exists as Arthur's trophy wife, who has very few lines of dialogue, and every single one of them that she utters makes you want to punch her in the face. She's a really shitty person in this.
Who is that? Merlin, please tell me who that young woman was.
How the fuck do I know, Arthur? I've just met her as well. Maybe go and ask yourself, you stupid simp.
Her name is Guinevere. She is Prince Leo's daughter.
Oh, of course he knows exactly who she is and where she came from. Silly me. Arthur should probably know this himself, given that he is a king and lives a life of courtship and other royal duties. Or does he just pass that buck on to Merlin as well?
She is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen.
In the Dingoverse, she's the only woman you've ever seen, because every woman in the Dingoverse is just a reskin of Esmastasia.
You know, that one can quarrel about good taste.
I'll marry her as soon as I have defeated Mordred, but this time without your help.
Does she get a say in this, or are you just gonna be like Borat? I hope you had the decency to nick the sack yourself and make it look pretty before bundling her up in it.
Also without a sword. As far as I remember, your sword was damaged in the fighting.
Oh, that's right. But where should I find a new sword in this wilderness?
I see. Now I'm suddenly the right man again. Well, come along with me, and I'll find a new sword for you.
For you. You gotta love how Merlin is just reveling in Arthur's uselessness. I can't decide if this is a case of the movie knowing about its flaws and just not doing much about it, or making a version of King Arthur who sucks on purpose, so their Merlin character can take the piss out of him. Regardless, Arthur feels like a warlock in Dungeons and Dragons who has just made a pact with Merlin to always be protected by his dark magic. This scene seems awfully familiar. So Arthur and Merlin go off to find an overpowered super sword that can make it possible for Arthur to one-shot the Black Knight, or Sir Maureen, and win without Merlin's help. Arthur's words, not mine.
Where are we here?
Could you have said that any worse, Disaster?
You
Whimsical.
are not a mortal human being. You must be a fairy.
You are right, Arthur. I'm Morgana from Avalon, the country of the fairies of immortality.
You have to admire her ability to just blurt out her entire character sheet as soon as she starts talking. So Arthur asks the soggy lady for a new sword, who happens to have an Excalibur floating on a lily pad. This would be silly, but there was a time in medieval England where there were many copies of the Excalibur sword just sort of floating around. Hell, in Crusader Kings, I had 4 of them on display at once.
Oh.
Yeah, that about sums things up.
Come on, Arthur, what are you waiting for?
Just jump into the lake wearing your armor. Oh shit, Arthur waited too long and now the Gardaland dinosaur has taken up the sword of Excalibur. No one can stop it. No one. Ah!
Arthur was glad about the new sword. Like a king.
I think you're getting a king confused with a psychotic murderer.
I had almost forgotten that he was a king himself.
Fair enough, I forget that King Arthur is a king from time to time, Merlin the Wizard.
Well, it was the most glorious sword that he had ever seen. But it was not just a beautiful sword. No, Excalibur was a very special sword. But Arthur did not know that until now. After Arthur had admired the sword again and again...
I think Arthur is getting a little too smitten by this fucking sword. I hope he washed it properly before taking it onto the battlefield. I can't imagine it's hygienic after he spends a night with it.
Gave his horse the spurs.
What, literally? I'd like to think so.
He could not wait until he would challenge the Black Knight again. And everything happened. Just like the first time. Arthur knocked at the gate of the castle. Mordred turned up, and the two started to fight again. But this time, Mordred could not rely on his experience and all his strength.
Yeah, that's usually a sign that you're cheating. When a person's earned attributes don't mean shit because of your one advantage. I love how Merlin talks as if this is a good thing when knights, especially the knights of King Arthur, are meant to be honourable and shit.
Because against someone who owns the sword of Avalon, even the strongest man is powerless.
This isn't actually what Excalibur did, by the way. It was designed to stop you from being mortally wounded in battle, but it didn't make you properly invincible. From what I've read, at least, anyway.
Mercy, King Arthur, spare my life.
I will spare your life, only if you promise not to fight against me again, and to accept me as the rightful King of England.
I promise. I invite you to my castle.
So by now, you've probably noticed the clever trick that they're doing, where they use live-action segments to reduce how much animation, storytelling, and, well, everything else they'd normally have to do. Just show some guy bumbling in cosplay in the woods for a few minutes, and then there's less work for everyone. Well, except for Armin Drogat, but he looks like he's having the time of his life, so I wouldn't really call it work. I'm amazed that they didn't do this for longer, to be honest, but I get the impression that they realised that this was too lazy even for them.
Don't trust him. He has submitted to you too easily.
Well, at least someone is smart enough to notice that.
Forget that. Now he knows I'm the stronger one.
Do you really believe that? Don't you notice that you haven't a single scratch?
So Merlin is rightly concerned that the Black Knight wants to bide his time and betray Arthur at some point, which is actually what the Black Knight proceeds to attempt later in the movie. This is something that is only stopped because Merlin is actually on the ball. Honestly, I don't get why Merlin isn't just a replacement Arthur in this story. He could just slit the little shit's throat and take the throne at this point. Like, he really would do a better job. My only guess is that Arthur is his figurehead who can take the fall if anything goes wrong. Merlin, your plague potion didn't work, and now half of my kingdom is sterile. Oh, well, I have everything that I need to fix it on my horse.
Why should I? I'm the better and braver of us both.
You're so brave and better now that you use a debugged cheat sword in order to win fights, because you couldn't win them otherwise without being killed. At least he faced his death earlier, even if the dignity was sucked out of it by his teenage emo whining about how Merlin was getting up in his business. Now he's just a whiny little bitch with a super sword who can't be stopped.
Since Arthur, it's the sword. Whoever owns Excalibur and fights with it is invincible.
Oh, so you just bother to mention that to Arthur now? What a fucking prick. Also, it makes you impotent. Damn it, Merlin. You need to tell me this shit before I do things. But then it wouldn't be anywhere near as funny.
The young king was rather angry at first. It was totally against his idea of chivalry to fight against someone using a magic sword.
But my amoral ass didn't give a shit about his ideals and beliefs, because I am an asshole.
But after a while, he realized that it was not the worst thing to have a sword that made him invincible.
Yeah, after a while he just got over the whole honor system and just became a cheating douche without complaining about honor and decency and shit like most noble knights should.
Also, the Black Knight suspected that it was not a normal sword with which he had been defeated. He wanted to have it by all means.
Why is this video at by all means a fucking fever dream? Like, the weird cuts just make me feel like I'm tripping balls. You know, if I ever become a criminal psychopath, my unique MO would be kidnapping people and chloroforming them, and then just strapping them down to a chair with nothing in front of them but a television set, with a movie like this in front of them. I'd make them watch the entire film before coming up behind them and chloroforming them again, and then I'd just dump them back where I found them completely unharmed, so they would question what the fuck happened to them for the rest of their lives, and even doubt if it was real. They'd constantly think about this movie over and over again in their head, trying to picture if it's even a real film that they saw, or if it's just part of the dream that they had. Like, for this film, could you even imagine the police reports and interviews? How would you even describe this film if you saw it in that context?
So he offered Arthur to come with him to become a knight in Camelot.
And that is how the Mere Mortals logo was made. Seriously, do we really have to know about the specifics of you pimping Arthur out, you disgusting pervy old fuck?
And because Arthur was young and inexperienced, he trusted his friendliness.
Okay, you know what? This story is going to a dark place that I simply don't like. I'm skipping ahead a bit.
We had stayed in Camelot just for a few days when Arthur remembered the lady he had seen.
God, she must have been on his mind if he forgot her for a week. Real object of obsession there.
Guinevere. So he sent me to ask her father for permission to marry her.
Wow, that's amazing. So this guy was such a little bitch that he sent a creepy old dude to do his simping for him. Could you imagine being a father and waking up to this fucking thing turning up on your doorstep and asking if she'll marry his pet king? Those are the kind of days that I'd just turn right the fuck back around and go back to bed on.
That was the custom at the time.
So, everyone had a weird old dude who just turned up to your house and asked to take your daughter away to marry someone you've never even seen before, just on their word that that's even going to happen and you're not just going to find her remains chopped up in the forest. Yes, somehow I doubt that's what happened back then. That is probably not proper procedure.
Guinevere didn't cause any problems. She was looking forward to becoming queen. I only had to come to an agreement with her father about the dowry. When this was finished, we could celebrate the marriage.
How much do you want to bet that this agreement was actually a death threat or just flat out murder?
After the wedding, I led Arthur into the hall of the castle. I had a special present for him.
I've made some fun of Armin Drogat's Merlin cosplay, but I have to admit, the costume isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, and he is very expressive. You can't say he's not trying here and that his efforts don't pay off on some level. Armin Droger actually did do theatre in Germany at some point and played Dracula in Nosferatu, Fritz in Frankenstein, and the Caretaker in The Tenant, and has also composed the music several times. From what I can tell, this stage show also featured most of the Dingo Pictures creators, which was interesting to me because I didn't know these guys still did anything outside of animation. The show is still going apparently, with Simone Gries and Ludwig Ickard appearing a fair bit in the shows. COVID has apparently cancelled them 2 years in a row, but they're back, baby.
Come here, Arthur. I want to show you something.
That's new.
A wedding present.
It's amazing that he makes such a grand gesture sound like go and fuck yourself.
That's quite nice, but round.
Nice, but round. Roundness is a detractor when it comes to furniture, I guess.
I had a round table before. Where should I sit as a king if there is no top seat?
But that is the reason why the table is round. All who sit around it should have the same rights. If you believe a knight deserves his merit, then ask him to be seated.
There are a few things that I never quite got about this, even in other adaptations. There's a top and a bottom of the table, so the head honcho can always sit there to look like king shit. But also, Arthur is the king. The dude wearing the crown is probably going to have a few more rights than everyone else. In this movie though, Arthur and his missus don't seem to agree with this equality bullshit, and don't seem to practice it from this point onwards, so don't worry about it.
But at the moment, I don't know so many of them.
Don't be in too much of a rush. Select them carefully, and when the time is ripe, then they begin their search for the Holy Grail.
Thanks for the plot synopsis, Merlin. So the gist is that Merlin already knows who is going to be sitting at the table in the end, because his dreams are prophesied. So he's keeping 3 seats open for the 3 pieces that he'll need to conquer the board.
Looking for the wonderful Grail? I don't know anything about it.
I mean, you just described it as wonderful, so you know something about it. Or are you just being presumptuous?
That is the Holy Grail, which, if one believes in it, will feed the hungry and heal the ill.
I thought the Holy Grail only served one person at a time. Does it just serve everyone now just by existing?
Yes, it is a wonder.
Well, Merlin, the idea of the round table is not bad. Knights of the Round Table. It doesn't sound bad.
Sure, use both takes saying the same thing. That'll work. You know, it might just work if you use both takes saying...
Arthur assigned a seat at the round table to his best friends. Also to the Black Knight. He refused to listen to my warnings.
Arthur, fuck that compassion shit. Kill him, and you will be more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Morgana.
Listen to me, Arthur. I have helped you for some time now. Today I would like to ask you something. Take Lancelot into your round table. I have educated him in Avalon, and I promise you he will honor you greatly.
I will, if you can say that sentence again without fucking any of it up.
I would like to fulfill any wish of yours. When Lancelot has proven that he is courageous and brave, he shall become a knight of the Round Table.
What the fuck is that dragon sword doing on Merlin's hand? Just cackling away like a jackass.
Here's someone who wants to test his courage. I want to prove that I am a true knight of the Round Table.
Well, you can prove it by using only one good take and saying prove correctly.
You dirty bit, you want to fight against me?
You think you can out-rabbi me?
Don't do it, Lancelot. He is too strong. I'm satisfied if you defeat a less dangerous enemy.
The king wants to make a coward of a knight of the round table? I'm not a coward. I'll teach you a lesson.
So he gets reverse psychologied into fighting the biggest and strongest knight at the table, who I don't believe has a name in this adaptation. I would say that he's Sir Galahad, as that was apparently the strongest knight of the Round Table in the original folklore, but he appears in a later part of this story and he looks nothing like this guy. He kind of looks like Obelix if he was drawn in 10 seconds in MS Paint.
Come on, big boy. Don't you carry a sword? We should have a little game.
A game that does not use a sword.
A game? I want to fight. Just wait. You take an axe and hit me in the neck as hard as you can. Then I'll hit you back.
Well, this couldn't possibly end badly.
It's your turn now, Lancelot.
I like how this guy smiles at the prospect of seeing Lancelot decapitated. But seriously though, how does an axe just bounce off of someone's neck? Even if it was really blunt, a guy who is decently strong, you know, like this guy, he'd break the skin at least, surely. Hell, if I was to guess, I think he'd cleave through at least half of his neck with a really good swing. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, pretty much they'd fucking just cleave his neck in two. So is the axe made of rubber or...
Come on, hit me.
Come on guys, I want to die. Hurry it up.
I don't want you to show any compassion.
I mean, in this kingdom, you'd be in the wrong place if you did, as it's in very short supply.
I only wanted to test you, to see how brave you are, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Get ahead of the narrative now before the police start asking awkward questions.
Lancelot, I think you are brave enough.
Me too.
In the following years, Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table became more and more famous.
As male strippers.
Arthur was a brave and just ruler. He always helped his friends.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but Arthur being a fair and just ruler is the toughest sell you've given me yet.
Because of his sword Excalibur, he remained it unwounded.
Well, I guess that the one good thing about his remainded cheating is that it didn't result in him getting fucked it up too bad, even if he does deserve it at this point.
But this was a great blessing, because until then, every year I had the trouble of finding a new king.
Every year? What the fuck is this, Game of Thrones? You said the old king had just deceased. Are you telling me that he was just the seat warmer for that year?
However, there was somebody, you can hardly believe it, there was really somebody who had never heard of King Arthur and his knights.
I mean, a fair few people probably hadn't, given that they were based in the south of England and we northerners are an afterthought. I mean, it's very rare that there are things that are universally known to all in general anyway. It kind of varies from king to king, but most kings lived in Westminster, which is in London. Around the time that this was written and set, that was pretty much the go-to. So it's not surprising that someone living 123 miles away, with absolutely no way to hear about it, had never heard of these guys. Also, from what I've been able to find online, there are few, if any, versions of the King Arthur legend that suggest that Nottingham had anything to do with any of it. I'm pretty sure they're confusing it with Robin Hood.
No. In the forest of Nottingham, there where it was very dense, lived a princess with her son. A short time after the birth of her child, her husband had lost his life in a duel.
Careless of him. It appears she could have done better.
And because she was afraid that the same might happen to her son, she withdrew into the forest and lived alone with him. When Percival was 18 years old, he did not know yet that there were castles and knights out there. One day, he saw Lancelot riding through the forest in search of adventure.
Ah, a foolproof plan. Actually, it's kind of interesting that Percival and Galahad are in this one together, because Galahad often replaces him in later adaptations. In fact, in this story, you'd think he'd be the Pure Heart Knight, the one that they'll need later to find the Grail, but apparently not. But that's not quite what they had in mind with this character. He's just another superfluous one. What a curveball. His origin story kind of changes from adaptation to adaptation, but this is at least one of the possible ones that exist. So they got that right. I told him that Nottingham is not the place to go, but he gave me the finger and did it anyway. So, Lancelot has a dog now that is one of the dogs from the Nice Cats / Dalmatians movies that just barks at everything and can't talk because it's an idiot. Percival is the second dude to be voiced by a woman because that's a running thing in this movie. He also looks a lot more like a caveman than a knight, through most of it for some reason.
Oh. Why are you staring at me like that?
Because I love you.
Fuck.
You are shining so much. Are you an angel?
I'm not an angel, definitely not. I'm a knight.
A knight? Tell me, what is a knight?
A knight? Well, a knight is somebody who is looking for adventures and who serves his king.
And what is that?
That's a shield.
And that?
That's my codpiece.
What does it do?
You'll find out when you're older.
Why is it so small?
Lancelot returned, covered in blood. He never told anyone what happened up in Nottingham, but I would guess that someone made fun of his tiny todger.
That's a sword, my dear boy.
And I also want to be a knight.
Well, this guy doesn't need much to be convinced for a lifelong commitment, does he? Guess he's just lucky that Lancelot didn't ride in bondage gear.
If you want to be a knight, you silly boy, then go to Camelot. King Arthur will not hesitate a second to knight you.
He's incredibly stupid and desperate that way.
Oh.
Agreed?
Lancelot was giggling into his armor and carried on riding.
You know, these guys aren't very good at the whole being honourable and nice thing. He's literally told this guy to travel 123 miles to make a complete tit out of himself for a laugh. I mean, I'd do the same, but I don't wear the label of gallant knight, so I'm okay.
And Percival ran as quickly as he could, and that was rather fast, to his mother and told her what had happened to him. She could not stop him from wanting to go to Camelot and to become a knight there. Well, his mother gave him an old rickety horse and made him a shield sewn from some cloth and tied together around some willow twigs. Oh dear, I tell you, Percival looked worse than the poorest beggar.
Well, they're probably poor because they blew all their money on decent quality shields like dumbasses.
And that is exactly what the mother wanted. She wanted him to be laughed at, and as quickly as possible to come back to her in the forest.
Well, that's abusive.
And that was exactly what was done by people who saw him. Everybody laughed at him.
everybody was an asshole that way.
But Percival thought they were friendly and laughed back.
What an idiot. None of us are friendly. Not even I. Merlin. This was how Percival became the first lolcow.
At last he came to Camelot.
Ooh, there's some intense jousting going on here. By intense, I mean barely jousting, that is. What the fuck are those two women at the back? Did fucking Chernobyl happen nearby? Why is everyone ugly as fuck in this thing?
Oh, who's that coming there?
You should better ask what is coming there.
You've no room to talk, you bitch. Have you seen your handmaidens?
Oh, look how I drive him away. Come on, come on.
I mean, given how ugly you are, you probably can drive him away. Yeah.
I have a dry throat because of my laughing. Hurry up. Modred, go get me something to drink.
This is what I was saying earlier. Guinevere is such a fucking bitch in this. She can't go 10 minutes without being a complete and utter cunt to anyone in this entire story.
Mordred, bring me this. Mordred, bring me that. It goes on like that the whole day. I'm not your servant.
But I'm your queen, and you have to do as I tell you.
How long until the Civil War happens? About 500 years or so? Shit. Shame this bitch will never see the headsman's axe.
What a queen! Arthur came to power with the help of Merlin's tricks, and he also got Excalibur from Merlin. Without his sword, he would be the greatest coward of all time.
You mean the greatest coward of all times? What's kind of funny is that this guy isn't even wrong. Without Merlin, Arthur wouldn't be shit. On his own, he's just a complete bitch with nothing to offer.
You dare talk about King Arthur like that? Where is a knight who will take revenge for this offense?
Here, I'm a knight. I want to avenge King Arthur.
I love how this bitch is so shit she needs some random simp to protect her from her own knight because she's such a wet bitch that her own sworn warriors talk shit to her.
You are just good enough for a court jester. Be gone.
Oh, I don't speak to Percival like that. He's my boy. Apparently. This was decided at some point.
See, my pretty Guinevere? Only court jesters are ready to fight for Arthur.
Not gonna lie, this guy's the hero of the piece, I swear to Christ.
I'm not a clown. Start fighting now.
Well, you sure backed up that statement with that line delivery and that voice.
If you want to lose your life, by all means, I don't mind. Okay.
It's funny because he's gonna die. Flip-ality. I fucking love that. Yeah, just stomp on his ribcage whilst he's down for the count. Make sure he stays that way. Gotta admire this kid's methods. Does kinda suggest though that keeping him locked away in isolation his whole life might have fucked up his psyche just a wee bit.
What is going on here?
He was offending you, my lord, so I was fighting him.
God, Arthur gets offended when he's not even in the room. What a pussy.
And you have won, I see. Only the way in which you did it was not in the manner of a knight.
What? Did he have to have a super cheat sword to be knightly enough for you, bitch boy? Also, Knight Schmite, he won a battle against him, that's more than you can say. I have absolutely no idea why I'm so invested in defending Percival, but fuck it, I'm kinda stuck in this role now.
No, but I have only come here because I want to be a knight.
So, you have a few things to learn. What is your name?
Percival.
I like him. He's brave and strong, and it was my fault that Percival came here. Well, if you want, I'll tell you all that you need to know in order to become a knight.
I like how he doesn't mention this until now. He just let him speak for himself and didn't bother to mention that he's the guy that put him up to this.
Everything had been planned like this by me.
Including the Black Knight being curb stomped? If so, that was a glorious part of the plan.
Because without Percival, the story would not have ended as I had seen it in my dream. Percival accompanied Lancelot, and already after a year he was better than his teacher.
I mean, he was already better than the lot of them for actually winning a fight without a debugged cheat sword, but I guess he learned a few skills along the way.
Now the time had come to start the search for the Holy Grail. A long time ago. Even I didn't live on the earth at that time. The gods were infuriated by the people, and the Grail disappeared out of this world.
Gods? You know that the Holy Grail's history is usually attached to Christ, right? As in Jesus Christ, of Christian faith, son of the Christian God. So, are there other gods beside the big Christian one in this lore, or did they just fuck up?
In my dream I had seen that the Knights of the Round Table would get back the Grail. I prepared everything.
Get back the Grail? It wasn't theirs to begin with. How does that work?
And went to Arthur. Come here, Arthur. I want to show you something.
Okay, so this is where the sword and the stone part of the story comes in, which is another fuck up on Dingo's part, because the sword and the stone story is about King Arthur's ascension to the throne, because he was the only one pure enough to remove the sword from the stone. In fact, it's implied in a lot of adaptations that this sword was Excalibur, though it's more often Caliburn. Usually this is so they can get the Lady in the Lake storyline as well. In this adaptation, the sword and the stone is apparently part of the process in finding the Holy Grail, which is confusing as the sword isn't used to find the Grail, you just have to remove it. Might have worked better if this was like the sword from Shadow of the Colossus, and the light sort of shone through it guiding the wielder to their objective or something of that nature, but that game hadn't come out yet so Dingo couldn't rip it off.
What is that?
So this guy just charges ahead like he's going to swipe it under their noses. Oh, and he's not in the next shot either, so I assume he just ran straight into the lake.
Stop, Arthur. You may pull as much as you want. You will never do it.
And why not?
Because only somebody who has a good conscience can pull out the sword.
And you're such an asshat, there's no way you could have one. I do kinda wonder if it's only a good conscience that you need. Could you pull the sword out by simply not caring about your actions? Like, you don't have to be pure of heart apparently, so if you're a genocidal dictator who doesn't give a shit, the sword should just budge for you, right?
Whoever is able to do that will find the Holy Grail. Do you want to try it?
Well, a good conscience. What do you mean by that? That one has never lied in one's life?
That's exactly what I mean.
This seems more like being pure of heart than a good conscience.
What about Percival?
Not even white lies?
No, not even white lies.
This is another thing that I find a bit odd. Wouldn't you have a good conscience after telling a white lie? Like, white lies are usually lies told to protect someone or to be tactful, so you wouldn't feel bad about that, surely.
No, then I better not try it.
What? You're not even gonna try? Why the fuck not? You don't explode if you fail. Why the fuck wouldn't you give it a go? If you could be the group's only chance, why not step up and take it? I regret simping for you now.
Lancelot?
I don't really know. Maybe not.
Nobody? Do you really want to say that there's none among you who has never lied? What about Mordred?
Well, I'll show you. I'm the most honest of your knights. I'll try it.
You know, he's not wrong. He kind of is the most honest of them all. I mean, they're laughing, but he is the only one with the balls to give it a try. Which is one up on you bunch of pussies.
Come here, Galahad.
Galahad?
Yes, this young man will find the wonderful bowl.
Oh, Merlin is just pulling knights out of his ass now. I hope he washed them after.
Oh. Everything is ready. You have to go now and find the Holy Grail.
I'm glad that they all know what they're doing. It's all thanks to Merlin's clear instructions and guidance.
But you have told us. Only Galahad can find the wonderful bowl.
Yes, but he needs your support. Only Arthur must stay here so that England is without a king.
This is the chance I've been waiting for. When all the knights of Camelot have disappeared, I will succeed in getting the sword Excalibur in my possession.
Yeah, just announce that in front of the people you're going to betray, you fucking genius.
A few days later, the knights set out. Everybody in a different direction. And everybody had a lot of adventures. Galahad as well. He killed 2 dragons, 5 giants, and 12 innocent children. And wherever he turned up, he was admired by everyone.
I actually had to rewatch this segment because I thought he actually said that he'd killed 12 innocent children due to how poorly this is phrased. Gotta love how all this happened off screen as well. Hi guys! On my way here I killed 3 dragons, robbed 3 banks, and fucked every Miss America who's still alive today. Got no footage of that, so you'll just have to take my word for it.
The Black Knight had managed to be injured after a few days fighting. Only lightly, of course. So he had a pretense to come back to King Arthur. But don't be afraid.
I wasn't afraid, I was hoping he'd succeed. Fuck King Arsehole.
I had warned Arthur, of course, and meanwhile he had learned to listen to me.
Oh, so you conditioned him to the point that he no longer questioned you and thought for himself at all. That's good.
After many months, Galahad came to the coast. When at a bay he got off his horse in order to have a rest. He was surprised to see Lancelot and Percival there. Both were totally exhausted, and what was even worse for them, without horses. They had lost them on their last adventure.
Galahad, we've almost come to the end of our search. You two will find the Grail together with me.
Well, in our condition, we can't be of great help to you.
We've lost our horses and we can't get on anymore.
That bastard seal and polar bear ate our horses and went back to ancient Greece like assholes.
Oh.
Galahad is right. You are the Knights of the Holy Grail. One will find it, one will watch it, and one will report it.
I like that these clueless losers need mystical beings to do literally everything for them. I also don't get why you need 3 people to watch, find and report something. You could just cut costs and just use 2 people.
Go on to this ship.
Oi, that's Wannabeard's ship. You can't fucking run off with that.
Without a helmsman, without a crew, the ship sailed off with the 3 knights.
Oh. So they were fucked then.
And every day the table was set with the most delicious food. Lancelot and Percival were much too tired to be amazed at that. And Galahad, well, Galahad had always believed in miracles.
He was stupid that way.
After many days and nights, they at last landed on a foreign coast. When the 3 came on land, Lancelot and Percival wanted to return at once. Everything was so unknown, and they were here without their horses.
So, being basically stranded on a foreign island is somewhat manageable so long as you have a big stupid beast to keep you company. Okay.
Pilot in full armor. If you've ever tried to run a long way in armor, you will know how difficult that is.
Yes, an experience that we can all relate to, I'm sure. I did pick up armor from this time period and hold it in real life, and you'd be surprised that it actually weighs less than modern military combat vests.
But Galahad went in front of them like in a dream.
Oh yeah, I've often had that dream.
Diese Herrschaften, welche hier beiseite stehen, das sind die Kinder des Olymp, welche dies Spiel sich möge drehen.
Oi, down in front.
And showed them the way. Soon they came to a cave, and although Percival and Lancelot were the bravest knights of their time, they now hesitated to follow Galahad.
Because they were pussies.
He had suddenly, without looking around once, disappeared into the cave. Lancelot, Percival, don't be afraid.
That sounds quite simple.
I love that. Just turn your fear off. Simple enough.
My task is done. I shall go to Avalon.
Galahad has found the wonderful bowl. You, Percival, will be the Grail King from now on.
Huh, he didn't even have to make a deal with Baba Yaga in the woods to get that title. Also, how is she here? Was she always just able to teleport into the cave? Or could she only do that once the bowl had been found?
As long as you are watching the bowl, those who believe in it will not be starving, and when they are ill, they will be healed. You, Lancelot, have to go back and tell the world that the Holy Grail has been found.
I'm kind of baffled as to how this works. Typically drinking from it does what she's described, but from the sounds of it, it sounds more like Persona's version of the Holy Grail. That it's more like a sentient god that people just have to worship and it gives them what they want.
However difficult it was for Percival and Lancelot, they had to say goodbye to each other.
Given that these three are the most tolerable characters in this shit, that probably was a slight challenge.
Percival remained here as the guard of the Grail, and Lancelot went onto the boat.
What about the other jackass? I don't quite get why they can't just take the Grail with them. Is this like Indiana Jones? Here the Grail crossing the threshold will cause the place to collapse.
On his way back, he later met the other knights of the Round Table together, and happy that their search was finished now, they sailed towards Camelot.
Forgot your line. Did you? Yes.
At Camelot, hardly anyone believed that the Knights of the Table Round would ever find the Grail, and nobody believed that they would ever come back alive.
So they sent them to their deaths. I hope they did a good job of hiding their disappointment when the three dumbass tears return.
Arthur felt lonelier from day to day.
What? So with a wife, old fuck Merlin, and a dozen friends, he was lonely because one rando that he just met, a jackass he didn't even like, and someone he tolerated, was gone from his life. What is Arthur in this movie? I swear to Christ.
And Mordred was sneaking around him with wicked thoughts and was waiting for a chance to steal the sword Excalibur. But because I had warned Arthur, the Black Knight was waiting for his chance in vain.
Oh, did you find a way to cheat so his scheming wouldn't work or something? does he explode upon touching the thing?
Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table are coming back.
What is his fucking perspective with these characters? I
can't believe that.
To hell with them!
My sentiments exactly.
Tell me, I want to know everything. Where are Percival and Galahad?
Yeah, where are the two I'd prefer to have survived?
And while the knights were talking and talking, I had taken the sword Excalibur with me. My dream wanted it to be that way.
You're putting a lot of stock and faith into a bath salt hallucination, my dude.
I had to bring the sword back to where Arthur had received it once. I had written Arthur a letter in which everything was explained. I gave the letter to a butler, put the sword under my coat, and went to the lake.
Fucking majestic.
So my task was done now. I withdrew from the life on this earth, but to honor the truth, the task was done.
What?
And that was not the only reason. Even a magician can fall in love, and I had fallen in love with Morgana.
What?
I'm kinda glad he said Morgana there, because I honestly was worried he was fucking his pet Dragonsaurus. But to address the Morgana ship that we've just been exposed to, when was this even fucking hinted at? I don't think these two have shared dialogue. Hell, I can't even remember them being on screen together before this point. This is the worst fucking romance I've ever seen. Also, I can't help but find it funny that the one thing that Arthur used to keep himself on the throne has now been tossed into the pond, and the guy who also kept him on the throne has faded away. There's nothing stopping the Black Knight from kicking his ass in a duel and finishing what he started.
And I wanted to be together with her and live in a different world.
Is it trying to imply that this is why he's live action now? I like to think that this happened. It makes me happy. I love that he leaves his Dragonsaurus behind to fend for itself. It's a domesticated mythical creature that is likely to be exploited and or killed, but now he's done with it, it can go fuck itself. A dragon isn't just for Christmas, Merlin, you bastard. And so, the Dragonsaurus grew up to be Godzilla, who proceeded to fuck up Tokyo in revenge. And that's the end of this mess. Dingo's Camelot is kind of a nothing movie. The animation doesn't offer much really, but the live action performance from Ludwig Ickard here is top tier. It does a fantastic job of feeling like a weird drug trip, or one of those cheap VHS tapes you would have found 10 or 20 years before this was made. You know, the kind that Charlie Sheen would have found at a yard sale and then got high and thought that they were some sort of horrific thing and reported them to the police over. You can tell that Ludwig enjoyed doing his segments, and there's a decent amount of acting enthusiasm in this thing, but it's one of the worst for broken English and lackluster animation. They only made a couple of movies like this before going back to fully animating the films instead, something that a lot of people are grateful for. Still, this is a nice point to end off, as I will be playing a game that's also in a similar setting next time. So join me then as we play a game about a horny Asian kid that drags around his white girlfriend whilst beating black people up with a stick. I'm talking a load of shit because I have no idea what I'm saying. I like to pretend that I'm Merlin because it makes the chicks go wild. What is wrong with my hair? It looks like fucking AIDS. Oh.
Welche neugierige Babbrüchen.